I'm Keith Hackland, and this is my business, Alamo Birding Services. We have a hotel here, a shop, guides, and everything to serve birders.
Mr. Hackland. Hackland
Yes,
or
sir.
Heckland?
Hackland.
Heckland. All right, Mr. Hackland. Where are we? What are we? What is this place called?
Alamo Inn, B&B, gear, and tours. We do all those things.
Oh, great.
We're here to serve birders. We have started out with a lodge. It's a hotel, some aspects of a hotel, some aspects of a B&B with a personal service. But whatever birders need, we've added those services over the years. And we opened in 1999. We've been here 20 years.
20 years. Wow.
Yes, sir. This building is 100 years old this
100
year.
years old.
Yeah, and on the square we have some other buildings too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Last time I was here, did your daughter say that this was the first building in Alamo?
No, the first building on the square.
On the square. Okay, on the
Yes.
square.
Yeah, the square was laid out in November of 1918, and then in the new year they started building this building. It was the first one on the square.
100 years.
Mhm.
Are you doing anything special for the 100-year birthday?
Just business as usual.
Business as usual. Okay. Now
Yeah.
tell us about the actual birding and the services you provide, because I drive by the expressway all the time. I've been to Alamo. I never knew that this is here, one of the best birding spots in the nation. Is that what you said?
Yeah, the lower Rio Grande Valley, the floodplain here, we've got more species of birds than most states do, just in our 4 counties. We've got 538 species, and most states are way less than that. And that's because of our geographic location. We're 1/3 of Mexico is north of us. We're under the migration routes for land migrants and trans-Gulf migrants. We're a big wintering area for birds. A lot of birds come down here in the winter. About 2 million red-headed ducks spend the winter here. A lot of raptors, a lot of shorebirds. And then we have a mixture of eastern bird residents and tropical bird residents that overlap. We get some western species too, and we're the #1 spot in the U.S. for vagrants.
Vagrants. What is that? Vagrants. I'm thinking of, vagrants. People you don't want around in your neighborhood, right?
Yeah, these are bird vagrants, and they sought after. They're birds that are far out of their normal range. And if they're on this side of the Rio Grande, birders can count them on their American birding list.
Oh,
So we have people who'll fly down here for one bird species.
just for
To see
that
it.
one species.
Yeah.
What kind of
Yeah.
species are? I mean, are there specific species these vagrants?
The vagrants?
Yes.
No, can be anything. Some years ago we had a snow bunting down here. They're an Arctic bird.
An Arctic bird.
Yeah.
All the way down here.
Yeah. We get owls, we get raptors. We had a bare-throated tiger heron from Central America showed up here at
Why?
Benson.
Well, why would it move up here? Because
Well, juvenile birds, they like people, they push the boundaries. And birds physically push the boundaries. They explore new areas. So often they're juveniles. Sometimes it's an adult that's blown off course, gets in a bad wind current or something and gets off course. Maybe their navigation device went awry. Maybe their GPS unit malfunctioned. There's lots of reasons, and we don't know all the reasons, but we've had some spectacular birds here. Every year or two we get a green mango hummingbird.
Where are they usually from? Green mango hummingbird.
Yeah, they're from the more tropical areas than here. And in Mexico, there's a cloud forest at El Cielo near Ciudad Victoria. That's 250 miles from here. That's not far for a bird to fly.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So how did you get into birding?
How did
Or,
I?
or do we want to go back? Now I detect a slight accent.
Yeah,
So I'm just guessing that you're not originally from Texas.
that's
Is
correct.
that a safe assumption?
That's a very safe assumption. I tell the uninitiated that I'm from Far East Texas, but it's further east and further south than that. Africa, South
Oh,
Africa, is where I was
Southeast
raised,
Texas.
and that's the accent. It sounds British
Just
because it
slightly.
has some British
Hmm.
tones to it. But I came here in 1967 as an exchange student and made a lot of friends
So you were here as an exchange student, as a high school?
at high school.
Really?
PSJA High School. There was just one back then, and I did senior year again in high school.
So you were 18, 17?
I was 18
And
when I arrived.
was that the first time you'd ever been to the States?
Yeah, my first time.
So first time across the Atlantic, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you get here to
That's
South
right.
Texas as a senior,
Yeah,
and you got to experience Texas.
yeah. My first issue was to understand people. My ear wasn't attuned to the accent down
Right.
here, and I didn't speak Spanish, so I really had to learn to lip read a little and listen very
Right.
carefully.
Exactly. Yes.
And other people had the same problem with me. I just completed my military service, and people thought I was a little bit stiff. You know, when you get out of the military,
Hmm.
you're pretty erect and
Oh, as a
ready
young
to
man.
salute. Yeah.
I see. So was
In
it?
South Africa, I finished high school, and then I did my military service. I was drafted, and then I came here.
Oh, is that a requirement then in South Africa?
Back
You had
then,
to.
it was a requirement. Yeah.
So how long did you have to serve in the military as a young man?
My basic training was 9 months. The basic training was 3 months, and then 6 months of guard duty. That was the basic. And then after that, we had to attend camps.
Okay, so like a reserve, you were
A
on the
reserve. After that, I was like on the reserve. Yeah.
and then you came down here, and for
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah, I stayed almost a year. Went through that final year in high school. Did lots of subjects that I didn't take in South Africa. I learned typing, for example. Who knew that was how important that was going to
Right,
be in the
right.
future? I just thought it was a cool skill, and I met someone in high school, and we dated. We really wanted to get married, and we didn't. But 30 years later, we got together, and that brought me back here to live in 97.
Wow.
And my wife is a professional, and she had a work lined up, but I didn't. And by accident, we lucked into buying this building and thought we'd turn it into accommodation. And then the question was, who's going to stay here?
Hmm.
The Valley is not known really as a big place for B&Bs like the Hill Country or Houston or Austin. But the Valley is a big destination for birders. And it took a while to get known, but then it took off. So today we've got birders coming from more than 40 different countries around the world. We're well known around the world. We've attended the biggest gathering of birders in Britain. We attend that each year and promote Texas as a destination. And that brings us recognition there too. And we've done that for 17 years. And then we market on the internet and on social media.
Great. Wow. So I'm gonna go slightly back to the dating story. So you met your future wife. You met your future wife in high school. Is that right? Here.
Mhm.
And
At
then
PSJA.
PSJA. So then you
in history class.
in history class. Okay, you remember that clearly, right?
American history.
American history. Yeah, what a beautiful
I
history.
remember the moment we met. Yeah,
Is that right? How did that happen?
I was coming into the class and I was looking around for a seat, and she looked up and said, "Oh, there's a seat right here," and it happened to be right in front of her, and we became fast friends.
That is a great story.
Yeah.
That is a great story. What a beautiful story. Okay, Mr. Eklund, beautiful story on your wife 30 years later. But so you saw that there was a need for birders, right? Who got into the birding first, you or your wife, or I saw you saw a need that people needed to come down here and see.
Yeah.
But how did you get the birding bug?
I've always had it.
Okay, was
I was raised on a farm in South Africa, and I think I learned to walk so I could follow the birds.
as a child.
As a child, crawling was too slow. But it's such a rewarding hobby for anyone who's a bird watcher, but it's just as rewarding for me serving birders because we meet amazing people, amazing people. Doctors, professors, carpenters, but all kinds of people love birds and love watching birds.
Why do you think that draws people? What is it about birding that draws people to that? Is it a pastime? Is it a pastime? Is it a hobby? What do you call it? What would you call it?
I suppose it's a pastime, really. It's for some people, it's a hobby. There's different types of birders. There's people who just really like being outdoors, and they enjoy the birds, but they enjoy everything outdoors. Then there's people who are really driven to see new birds and check them off on their list, and we call those listers, and they don't necessarily want to spend much time with a bird. They just want to see it and then they move on. And in England, those people are called twitchers.
Twitchers.
Yeah.
Twitchers.
Then there's people who study bird behavior. There's ornithologists. Now, they're scientists who study birds, but they don't necessarily travel so much to the valley. We don't see many. We have an ornithologist at UTRGV here, Dr. Tim Brush.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Then there's people who don't like to travel on their own, and they go on tours. And there's a lot of tour companies that bring people to the valley from all over the world. And in fact, we represent some here, and we run tours for a German company and for a company from Netherlands.
Wow.
And anyone can join our tours. And then there's people who like to go to a place but attend a birding festival that has daily outings, and that's the RGV Birding Festival. Okay. And it's been running about 26, 27 years now, one of the biggest in the country, and it's in Harlingen, held there every year.
So I could see that, like you said, the twitchers or the listers, seems like that might be more of a competition, right? Like if I could get all these birds checked off, like I've seen all these birds and maybe someone else hasn't seen all these birds. So like you could see it as a competition.
It is competitive. And there's the American Birding Association has a publication once a year that lists the top American listers in the country, and people can see where they stand. But for many people, they're competing against themselves. They just want to get higher and higher on the list, on their own list.
So I like the story that you came back to the valley, and like you said, the B&Bs here. There's not a lot of B&Bs where people can just go and spend a weekend or a week somewhere. How did you make that connection? Like, how did you see your love for birds? How did you connect your love for birds and see that as an opportunity to maybe, like you said, serve people and also make a living at it. Like, a lot of people say find something you love and do it, right? How did you
Yeah.
make that connection? Do you remember how you came up with that conclusion? You said, gonna take this, I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna build a business that wasn't here before, obviously.
Yeah. I've always had an interest in business. I studied business. I have a business degree from South Africa, and I did postgraduate work in accounting and business. So I've worked auditing businesses. I worked in public accounting for many years, and then I wanted to do more on my own in business. So I knew I wanted to create a business and run it, and I was really listening and watching who comes to the valley, and I noticed that birders were really not a market that anyone was serving, and yet there were a lot of people coming. So I felt that it was an underserved market or a poorly served market, and it turns out that was true.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
saw that need. You
Yeah.
were keen enough, or you had that foresight to see something's missing here that could
Hmm.
be big, and obviously it has. I
It
mean, you
has.
said
Yeah.
people come here from all over the world.
They do. Yes.
What would you say was one of your obstacles? So if someone's watching and they're trying to find that need, they're out
Hmm.
there right now and they're trying to look for a business, or maybe they have something that they want to be in business. What was
Hmm.
one of the obstacles that you had that maybe overcame, that someone else could learn from, like a lesson that you learned?
The biggest obstacle, other than providing the facility, the biggest obstacle was to figure out how to market and how to reach birders. And in the end, they found us. Once a few started staying here, they were amazed that someone wanted to serve them,
Mm-hmm.
and they felt honored. And then their first response was to tell their friends and tell other birders. So we had many years from about, we had probably about 8 years, 7 years of about 20% a year growth
Wow.
just from word of mouth. Then in 2008, the economy turned south,
Mm.
and I really got concerned, and I noticed that the demographic was changing. The older people were traveling less. I guess they were hit hard by the stock market fall. And at that point, I really diversified our marketing. And every year, I look for another new way to market the business.
Wow.
You each source of new business is just a small part of our total new business. So the more marketing you do in diverse ways, the more successful your outreach. But there's no silver bullet. The key is to do everything, and it all brings in a little.
I like that what you said is like every year you come up with something new. You're always
Yes.
looking for something new to reach that market.
Yes, we add services each year. We have an in-house guide now. We do a lot of guiding. We also use outside guides. uh, we're starting to do more with tours outside of Texas, foreign tours. Um, we're always looking. You can see the store here. This is an attempt to provide birders with the tools that they need for
Mm.
birding. And we over there we have optics. We're dealers for Swarovski and Opticron, and we sell scopes and binoculars. So everything that's centered on the the hobby or pastime of birding, we want to do. We want to help serve birders in that area, and that's our business philosophy. And the new products help us with our marketing. In 2008, we realized we had to find new ways to reach birders, and the new way that was successful, it took several years to find the right components, but the new way that was successful was online. Birders don't have a lot of time. The birders who travel, they're busy people. Most of them are still working. They don't use social media much. They still use websites. So we've got a strong website. We've got a company that helps us with search engine optimization to get it out there. And if you put in Alamo Inn or birding, RGV, anything like that, we come up number one.
That's great.
And our biggest source of new business now is online, and number two is word of mouth recommendations.
That's great. So you're doing
It's perfect for us.
online,
Yeah.
reaching out, making sure that you're at the top of the list of those search engines. You mentioned the word of mouth and people telling their friends about it. A referral is basically the best compliment you can get, right?
Yes, it
Because
is.
if I
Yeah.
came here and I loved it, I'm gonna go tell other people about it, right? So
Yeah.
that's like the best compliment you get as a business. How do you mentioned the word serve too? You keep saying serve, and I like that. How do you nourish? How do you get people to give you referrals? Like, how does that work? Do you ask for it, or do you just do a good job and people just like it? What is it? What's the secret sauce there?
One of the keys right now is we ask people for reviews or testimonials, and Google uses those. They rely very heavily on those, and our search engine optimization company helps us collect genuine reviews and testimonials from people who stayed here.
Okay.
And Google really likes that, and that's one of the biggest reasons we're number one on Google.
Well, that's good. You treat people good. You serve them,
Yeah,
and then you say, "Well, can you leave a review?" And they do, and obviously you've done a good job.
yeah,
And they leave the review and then go tell someone else. And in a way, the review is
Right.
telling the world.
it is telling the world, and it's a personal recommendation. It's just that it's online,
Right.
and it reaches anyone who looks for it.
Right.
Another area is training our staff. In the restaurant business, they discovered, and the hospitality business, that if a guest hears from 3 different people a concern about how they're experiencing their food or their stay or their accommodation, the services, they feel well looked after.
I see.
And so we've trained our staff to really be aware of guests and ask guests, how's it going? Is there anything we can do for you? And all of our staff do that. We don't have a big staff, but we all do that. And that makes a difference.
That's great. That's great. That's a great tip right there. Just
Yeah.
looking after your client.
It's a key tip. If you go into some of the bigger chain restaurants now, you can observe them doing the same thing.
Hmm. I think of Chick-fil-A, and they do that all the time. They come by
Yeah.
and they ask you
Yes.
2 or 3 times, different people.
That's right.
Can I get anything else for you?
Yeah, that's right.
That's good. So, could you tell us just say we're talking to the birders and someone is in, I don't know, New Hampshire, and they're watching this video, and they've never been to South Texas. Why should they come to Alamo, Texas, to the Alamo B&B? If you could tell that person right now, like, invite them here. Why should they come?
Okay. We're a very comfortable, homey place. You're going to find, after a long day of birding, you come in here and you can relax. And it's almost like being home. And you can have a good, quiet evening. We don't have noisy guests because all our guests are birders or people who are sympathetic to birders. So everyone goes to bed early and gets up early. We have a self-serve food system. So if you want to leave at 4:30, you can fill your pockets with trail bars and fruit and whatever you fancy, and get out into the field. You can make a lunch and take it with you. So we're very flexible. This is the richest birding in the United States, the most diverse area in the country. So you're going to have a wonderful experience birding here. And something that a lot of birders notice when they get here, our birds are friendly.
Oh, friendly birds.
It sounds like a strange thing to say, but the birds, you can watch them from very close up.
I see.
And to a birder, that's phenomenal because you can see all the detail and you can really enjoy the birds close up.
Well, that's great. Yeah, because I've seen some people with those huge
Yes.
or cameras or scopes or whatever they
Mhm.
are. But I'm sure that would be be great. Just see if you can get at least 20 feet from a bird, or
Yeah.
how,
Oh, yeah.
what's the closest you've gotten to a bird, like maybe that was very rare?
Well, we have a photographer friend who takes people to ranches where there's professional setups for photography, and she's had birds land on her hand.
Amazing.
You can feed hummingbirds by hand and have them come to your hand. So you can get literally as close as you want to birds here. Rare birds are going to be out of their element, and there's a confusion factor. Sometimes you can get close to them, sometimes you can't. But the birds that winter here, winter is the peak time. Every month of the year is good for birding here. We have migrants moving through every month of the year, but winter is the peak time. Because of the wintering birds, the volume of birds is very high. We've got feeders everywhere in the reserves and the refuges. And the birds are in flocks and they come to the feeders. So for your first trip to the valley, I always recommend coming in winter.
Right.
And winter is December, January, February.
And I'm sure if I'm sitting in New Hampshire and it's December, February, January, February, I'm covered in snow. It's miserable.
Yeah.
And we're right now it's 68 degrees outside. It's November 15th. I mean, why not, right? Why not be
what
here?
a good time to come.
A great time.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something too about, having a photographer, having ranches set up or places where people can go, and you have those relationships already. So
Yes.
if I've never been here
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know the area, I've never been here before, I fly into McAllen or Harlingen, I come to you and you know where all those things are.
Yes. We provide people with a map. We provide them with a checklists of where to go, a checklist of the birds, guides, contacts for photography, contacts for ranches where there's professional setups. Whatever they need, chances are we already have that available or know someone who provides that service.
And if you forgot your scope or forgot your hat, you've got it all here. Books.
We got it
and
here. We even rent out optics.
Optics, you rent them out. Great.
Yeah.
Great. If I want to pack light, I don't want to bring my big optic, I can just rent it from you.
A lot of people don't like traveling with bulky tripods, so we have tripods here that we rent out. Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. We'd love to have you come and visit us. If you're watching this, look us up online, alamoinbnb.com, and come and visit us. Visit South Texas, the richest birding in the United States. We'll take good care of you here at Alamo Inn B&B Gear and Tours.